Well, good morning and welcome to All Things RGB webinar by Principal LED. My name is Rich Mattis. I'm the West Coast sales rep, and then we also have on the webinar today Derek Hopper, one of our key engineers. He and I will be discussing RGBs for you this morning. Next. All right, snapshot of solutions. Our main product lines for RGB, of course, is our Street Fighter module, RGB module. This is one of the best in the industry. It is not addressable, but it is a complete RGB module string. Street Wrap, which is our border tube product, which can be RGB, and so that's kind of exciting for a lot of applications. RGB light tape, we have it in both single density and double density, and we also have it in indoor and outdoor. Accessories, our new T3 RGB remote and controller, pretty spectacular. Some really great new advantages to this product. So we'll discuss that, and Derek will get into that. Our lead wire, we do have that available for you, and then of course all of our light tape connectors. Next. Street Fighter RGB, you can cycle through as many colors as you would like, utilizing an RGB controller. One thing I will mention right now, that all of our RGB products are DMX compatible, DMX 512. So if you have a customer or an end user that is thinking of going with a higher quality controller, a DMX 512 compatible controller, all of our products will work with those higher end control systems. This has a batwing optic and allows for a wider row spacing and reduces module count and installation time. And this is quite true. The RGB Street Fighter modules come roughly about 2 per foot, and you can space them closer together if you wish, or do a full stretch, and they fit beautifully into channel letters. Next. Street Wrap. This is our border tube product. Street Wrap components allow for easy cutting, no pricey custom work required. Purchase in standard lengths and cut to size on site if you would wish. They're bright, eye-catching lighting options. There are colored housings available, and then also so that it will not need to be lit during the daylight. Neon-like appeal, and we have a brand new border tube coming out, which should be out in about a month and a half, our border tube 2. PVC housing is UV and impact resistant and paintable. Next. Light tape, ideal application for accent and cove lighting, edge-lit acrylic, and thin channel letters. If you have a very narrow channel letter, let's say you're doing a steel art product and it's a reverse pan channel letter, you can actually apply the tape on the return, bounce the light, and then have the halo effect coming right out of a very, very narrow channel. VHB tape, direct mount to the substrate. Excellent price per lumen value, and this is correct. We are one of the lowest cost products in light tape for RGB, both single density and double density. And then we do have a complete range of connectors and control options. The solder pads, however, are excellent on all of our light tape products. So if you wish to solder, it works out fantastic. Next. Poll number 1, please use the chat window to answer. Which of our RGB solutions offers neon-like appeal? And we'll just give it a few more seconds. Now, if I were to answer that, I think I might put down street wrap. And our pole is done. By the way, there will be a $25 gift certificate or Visa card that will be sent out to the winners of each of our polls. So pay attention and try and win that money for lunch. All right. Kayla, are we going to let people know who won, or are we going to go on?
No, Rich, thank you for that introduction earlier. This is for everyone else. This is Derek Hopper. As Rich said, I'm one of the engineers, and I'm here to demo our new RGB system. But before that, I want to say that Jonathan Knight is the winner of our poll. So congratulations, and good job on paying attention.
Look at that handsome devil.
Are we live? Well, hello. All right, good afternoon, everyone. The main portion of this is just going to be demonstrating our new T3M RGB system. It comes with the remote, as well as, you can't see it in here, but there are the receivers. These are a little bit different than the ones that we've been using in the past. Instead of buying them as a system where the remote comes with the wired-in controller, you will buy the remote separately from the actual unit itself. And the reason for that is that these are each addressable to the remotes. Go ahead and turn this on just to show you. Right now, in this box, there are 10 different receivers. And what makes this system kind of unique is that with our old system, you had one controller, one remote, and then if you wanted to do additional power supplies or anything like that, you had to have another amplifier for every additional power supply. So if you had 5 power supplies, you'd have your one controller followed by your 4 amplifiers. All of it would have to be wired, and it could be a bit of a mess. That still works in this method if you want it to. You can still use our old amplifiers with this unit and save yourself some money. It'll just be a little bit more labor intensive with all the extra wiring. Another option, though, as you can see here, is you can sync all of these into it. So right now, this is all synced into zone 1. And when I say zones, another unique feature about this is that you can actually do up to 10 different zones with this. So if you had a 4-sided building, just a normal square, you could do each side of the building as a separate color, and it would all be controllable from this single remote. And I'll go ahead and demo that right now as soon as I turn it on. So right now I hit the number 1, and as you can see, just rotate through all the different colors as well as the different modes for the presets. Presets are very similar to our old system if you're familiar with it. Has more, I think, in fact. And then you just go down the line, change each one individually until eventually you can actually change them all. So this gives you a lot of versatility and a lot of options, because you can now, like I said, with the example of the 4-sided building, if you wanted to have, at Christmas, do 2 sides red and 1 side and 2 sides green, you could do that. At the end of the time, at the end of the year, anything like that, you wanted to go back and sync them all together, simple 2 clicks of the button, and they're all back together and ready to take whatever command you want them to put in. Another option that comes with this is this has 2 memory functions. So if there is a specific dialed in color that you want for your business, or your customer wants for their business, that's unique, say an orange or anything of that nature, you can program it in. This one was specific for a hospital job that we did. They said, hey, I need this exact color. We're able to dial it in for them, and then we could pre-program this for them, or they can do it themselves. What makes it nice is, once again, if they wanted to do holidays, anything like that, they could rotate it to whatever colors they wanted to, and then at the end of the holiday, come back, or a special event, they could just come back and reset it to whatever they wanted it to be for their business. Something unique about this one as well, compared to our old system, it actually has, I don't know if you can see, in the middle of it, there's a diode. So no longer are the days where you actually have to see the sign itself. If you're inside, if you are inside a restaurant or anything like that, you don't have to go outside and look at the sign itself to see what color it is. You can just look down at the remote, and whatever it says on the remote is exactly what you're going to get on the sign itself. Beyond that, as I said, you can do this one of 2 ways. Using the amplifiers that we used to have works well. If you don't want to mess with that, you have that option, and you can hook up an unlimited number of these to one remote. So if you have a very large sign that has, so let's say go big, has 100 different power supplies on it. In the past, and you still could, use this remote and this controller with 99 extra amplifiers and wire it all in together. That could be a pain, and that can be a real hassle, especially when you're trying to save on labor. Alternatively, you're going to spend a little more up front, but you could put 100 of these in line, not have to worry about wiring them together, and just sync them all to the remote. And you could do it anyway. You could put them, all 100 of them, on zone 1, so that no matter what, if you're not worried about having different sides of a building or different parts of a sign, different colors, then you're fine. You can do it all in one zone. If you want to put them on 10 different zones and do 10 per, that's fine as well. It's all up to you. This gives you the options that we haven't had in the past. And it just has been a really solid product so far, and we're really happy with it.
Eric, one other thing on the controller, it might mention that it does have control buttons on this controller, where on the old controller, our current model, it did not. So you can actually do some controls right at the controller itself. That's
true. There have been some applications we've seen so far. I think the big ones I've seen right now are bars. They have it as under counter lighting right at the front, right under the customers or behind the bar. And in that particular case, we've had some people say, well, I don't need the remote. I can just go up behind the bar and cycle through any of the color options I want, and that'll be the end of it. The only downside with that is you can't dial in a color. So with this one, obviously you have the color wheel. You can make the color selection anything you want. But if you're not worried about that and you just want to go in and set it to one of the presets where it cycles between blues, or jumps between R, G, and B at different speeds and gradients, you have that option. But yes, that's a good point, Rich. Thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think we're good, Kayla.
Well, thank you, Derek, for that explanation. Kayla, can you go on to the next slide? Derek, you want to mention about the wire and the accessories?
Absolutely. As it says on the screen, it's 22 gauge 4-color wire. It's copper, it's UL approved, which is just say it's UL recognized, as with any of our other components. It has the good thing about it's not a real thick gauge wire, as we say, it's 22. However, the nice thing about it is that when it comes to RGB, a lot of the bigger runs that you worry about are carrying the signal, not necessarily the voltage, from one controller to the amplifier, whatever it may be. The gauge does not affect the signal like it does with voltage. You don't have to worry about drop off. So if you just want to carry the signal from a controller to an amplifier 100 feet away, you can do that without ever having to worry about there being a delay or anything like that. Next slide. Okay, and this last one's pretty self-explanatory, just our light tape connectors. It's a real simple crimp. Has 4 little prongs on it, so that if you have cut along the dotted lines that the cut marks with the copper, if you have 2 cuts, you can just put them right next to each other and put them on either side of this clamp it down, and you'll have your connection. Those also come available, we don't have it pictured here, in wire leads, where instead of connecting 2 pieces of the light tape, if you have a piece of light tape that was cut so you don't have wire leads on either side, you can put this crimp on there and you'll be set.
All right, poll number 2. And remember to use your chat window. And while you're doing that, I might mention that in your chat window, you might notice that we put up, if you have any questions, please submit them through the chat window, and we will answer them at the end of the webinar.
All right, Rich, it looks like we have a winner. It appears that it was Michelle Geyer has won our second poll of the day.
Fantastic. Very good. All right, let's move on. Kayla, can we have that next slide? Perfect. Now we're going to show some applications, and Derek is going to chime in with me with any additions that I may miss on these. But these are some of the applications that we've done as a company. You'll notice this one. This is down actually in Houston, Texas. This is pretty close to San Angelo. I wish we could fire it up for you guys and run it as a video. But all of the, we can. Hey, fantastic. All right, you'll notice this was actually taken by my son. He worked at a restaurant down there, the House of Blues. And when they got these set up, this was from his second-story window. And you'll notice how fantastic those are looking, changing. This was around Christmas time. And they had it red and green and white. This was done with a DMX 512 compatible controller and a encoder that was at each sign, and with our Street Fighter RGB modules. So this was a lot of fun to work on. This was a project actually from one of my sign shops down in California. All right, let's move on. All right, here's another one of the great examples of what can be done with RGB. And for those of you that are looking for end users or customers, this happened to be a trade show booth manufacturer that has great ties with the Hollywood community. This was the Screen Actors Guild Award just recently, a few months back. And this is the room that the winners would go into after winning their award. And this is kind of the quiet room, they called it. I don't know how quiet it was. It was a lot of fun, though. You'll notice that at the bottom, the cove at the base of the room, that's all RGB light tape. And they used somewhere in the neighborhood of about 160 reels of light tape for this application for this room. Let's move on. All right, here's the room itself. You'll notice that the two bar areas opposite each other, the vertical rows of lights at the bar area was also RGB, and the vertical rows along the walls are all RGB. The RGB lights in the ceilings, those are not ours, but they were run on the same DMS control board. And the yellow light in the bar area that lit up all the bottles when they were filled, that was our new Quick Mod 4100 product, and it just looked spectacular. But everyone was very excited about the room when it was finished. They did a marvelous job on it. Let's move on. Just another shot of the room. This was cycling through. You'll notice that there's a little bit more of the yellows and greens in this shot. And you'll notice that behind the bar, the two vertical and then the horizontal cross piece, that was all done with a side comp extrusion and then filled with our RGB light tape. All right, let's move on. And here we go just a little bit further with the spectrum, more of the blues and purples. And you can see the Quick Mod modules in the bar itself. And this did use some of our controllers, some of our older style. And so they're not, unfortunately, they're not encoders. They're not 512 compatible. So where they wanted to have them separate and individualized, they used our standard controller, and then they used 512 compatible encoders to tie into the main motherboard for the DMX. They did use a lot of our wire, and they did use a lot of our amplifier repeaters. So this was a phenomenal application. We had a lot of fun with it. All right, let's move on. Any questions? Do we have any questions, Kayla?
We do, Rich. Looks like the first one is going to be Matt Sawyer. His question is the supply wire in wall rated? Yes, it is. Next one looks like it's coming from Adrian. Is the LED controller in the SAM manual? It is not. It looks like there's a few UL questions on here from Ryan as well. They are not. There's been a bit of a push by UL in the last couple months to insist on uniformity across the nation in how their inspectors deal with signs. In the past, there has been a loophole that was allowed where if you were to put all of your components inside of a building and then just run the low voltage wire outside, you would be considered fine and good to go. You all didn't mind. That maybe back in November kind of came up again, and they have kind of put their foot down and said, look, we get it's a loophole, but we're kind of closing those up right now. So can't do that anymore. In the last since then, I've been trying to work with them and some manufacturers to figure out what we can do. And unfortunately, it pretty much seems like unless a vendor such as ourselves has access to that exact company on the factory level, UL will not allow us as a vendor for them to get it UL'd. It would be one of those ones where we would have to work with them and the factory to pay to get it done, and we could do that. But in the particular instance of this system, we're not the only ones out there selling it. So it would end up being where we'd end up paying to let our, direct competitors benefit off of it. And we haven't figured out how to circumvent that yet. But we are still looking into it. For the sign shops at that level, they seem to be right now the only ones that have a real solution, though it probably isn't going to be cheap. What it comes down to is UL will allow them to take any RGB system, even if it's not UL'd, and submit it. And as long as it passes their inspections, that particular system will be applied directly to their UL file. So that sign shop will be authorized from that point on to use the RGB system in any job they want to. That's not to say that another company couldn't do the same thing, but each company would have to do it themselves. So at the moment, that's where we're at.
And Derek, this is something that we can help the sign shops work through with UL, and if we have specific questions, have them direct to you, and we'll see what we can do to help out.
Yes, the engineers that we work with on all of our files have told me that if there's any sign shops that need help or assistance in any manner, that I can just direct them in their direction. The gentleman's name is John Murray and Nazir Gohari. We've been working with them since 2012 when PLED started, and they've helped us every step of the way. So they know what they're talking about. And when the inspectors out in the field from UL come to your shops or the sign shops and they have questions, those are the guys that they call. So if you're going to get help from someone, you want it to be them.
Perfect. All right. Very good. Any other questions on RGB?
Yes, it looks like from Nate. Can you use your controller with other amplifiers? There should be no problem with that as long as they're compatible. Our amplifiers that we used with our old system were very simplistic. You had on the input side, you had your voltage from your power supply, so your positive and negative, followed by the RGB wires that you'd get from the previous amplifier or controller to carry over the signal. As long as you're looking at that and not trying to mix our controller with a decoder or something you'd see on a DMX system, there should be no issue.
Yeah. That brings up a real good point that I think I'd like to mention right now also, Derek, in that all of these new systems are 100% electronic. And by that, I mean no longer analog. They are digital systems, and you don't wire them the same way that you used to years ago, where, for example, you would hook up a controller at the start of an RGB run of modules or light tape, and then you would add the amplifier and the next power supply and the next run of the light tape at the end of the previous run. That's no longer doable, not with these new controllers. If you want to use an amplifier repeater, you have to do straight from the output of the controller, go to the first run of modules, and add a second set of wire that would go from the output of the controller to the input of the next amplifier repeater, and then do your second run so that you're getting a direct signal from the controller to the amp repeater. Then you can daisy chain the amp repeaters after that and go from the input side of the first amp repeater to the input side of the second, third, fourth, etc., and just daisy chain the amplifier repeaters. So just want to make that clear with everyone. You do need to get a clean signal with amplifier repeaters from these digital controllers. Derek, anything on you?
No, I'm just, that was perfect. I'm just making my way down the list of questions. Looks like one from Michelle. You're asking about if you had a large channel letter set with 10 individual letters on it, and you had these where they were all in the same zone, as opposed to in my demo where they were all on different zones. Yes, there should be no lag. Not that we've seen anyway. Obviously, we don't have the capacity here at Principal, since we aren't a sign shop ourselves. We don't have the large scale test to do like that. But with the demo box that was on the video, when I had them all synced up to one zone, there was no delay. So that shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, I have not seen a delay of any consequence. It's pretty straight across the board, where the color channel letter to channel letter will change almost instantaneously with each other. So.
Absolutely. All right, next
what else?
list, warranty. As with most of our products, it's a 5-year product. I do not believe we offer the labor on this one.
Correct. Very good. What else?
Let's see. Next one's from David. Is flexible conduit acceptable for primary wiring to the power supply? So if I'm understanding this correctly, your question is if just from your primary side wire, whether it be 120, 240, 277, if you're wiring it to the power supply, if you're running it inside flexible conduit, that there should be no issue with that. Not that I've seen.
Unless it's plastic.
Correct.
Must be metal.
Right.
Must be metal flex. Yeah. One thing I'd like to mention at this time for everyone, RGB is phenomenal for dialing in that color that your customer might want. However, let's say, for example, you have a end user, we'll call it XYZ company, and they love bromo purple. It's an old neon color. They want to go with it for their image, for all of their signage. We have a product that has really helped with RGB for single color applications, and that's our Fusion Freedom. If any of you have not looked at that product, this is the only module that's on the market where you, as the sign shop, can control the color of the module simply by changing a lens on the module. So if you have, and that eliminates the cost of controllers, amplifier repeaters, etc. And you can dial in a color beautifully. Single color, though, keep that in mind. If the customer wants to change the colors, then of course RGB is the way to go. But just as a go-to product for single colors, we have over 50 colors available in lenses, and we can match any PMS number for you as well for only a $500 charge, and you get 2,000 lenses to boot. That's our Fusion Freedom, guys. So if you're not familiar with it, ask your sales rep or ask your distributor and take a look at it. Phenomenal product to go along with RGB.
All right. Thank you, Rich. That's an excellent point. Yep. Looks like we have just one question left, and it's from Corey. Do you have any power supplies or controllers that are either Wi-Fi or Bluetooth compatible? And with that, are there any apps to control it? And right now, no, we do not offer any of those. We've looked into them, but for what we have our hands in right now, and for the general need that we've seen, we haven't pursued it any further at this point.
Perfect. All right. Well, we want to thank everyone. You see in front of you our website address, our main phone number for our San Angelo office, email as well. And of course, that smiley face on the right is Derek. He's your engineering contact. So if you guys need anything, be sure and send him a message. Gang, I just want to thank you all. These webinars have been a lot of fun that we've been doing. Do want to mention that we have another webinar already planned. It'll be on Wednesday, May 23rd, and the topic is going to be our layout services. We have two. We have our layout team, And then, of course, we have our Easy Layout Builder software on our website where you can go in and do your own layout, choose the modules that would be allowed for the application, and you can print out a drawing immediately. So if it's 6:30 at night, you got a customer that's banging on you to get a quote done by tomorrow morning, you can get the layout done that night right at the at your desk, right off of our Easy Layout Builder software on our website. So take a look at that. If you're available on May 23rd, please sign up for the webinar. And that's it. We want to thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure as always. Anything we can do for you and your shop, please let us know. Thank you very much.